Cheap and Cheerful, and today I'm checking out a couple of tools that I'm thinking of adding to my regular tool set. First up, the Jakemy Y10 Ultrasonic Cutter. I bought this myself. I've been super excited to try this out. I've been curious about these things ever since I saw a Kickstarter last year for an ultrasonic cutter. If you never heard of one of these, it's basically like a transducer from an ultrasonic cleaner. So it vibrates at like a gazillion vibes a second, but instead of it being bolted to a metal bucket to wash things, they stick it to a razor blade to cut things. Smashing idea. What could possibly go wrong? I'm also checking out the Fnirsi DPS-150, which promises to be a pro-style benchtop power supply in a tiny little package you can run off a USB charger. This one caught my eye, mostly due to its size and just looking pretty darn cool. Now, these are both great little tools for hobbyists and makers, but they've both got some important limitations you need to know about before you buy. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, so let's get stuck into it. First up, let's check out the Fnirsi DPS-150. So this was applied to me by Fnersy. All opinions will be my own. As you'll see, let's hope they have a sense of humor. So this product is targeted at people like me who have an unending compulsion to buy all kinds of sweet gadgets from AliExpress. Designed to pump out the disco juice on demand to your exact specifications, it avoids having a chunky monstrosity such as this traditional benchtop power supply gobbling up all your desk space. It arrives in traditional AliExpress fashion, about as beaten up as I was when I told my wife the pile of clothes wouldn't wash themselves. It's got a very high build quality. It's got this solid aluminium alloy shell, which helps dissipate the heat. On the front are two banana plug outputs, a nice rolly wheel you can control the voltage and the amps with, a bunch of menu buttons up the top, Type C and a DC barrel port at the back, and a dreaded micro USB port. Specifically designed to piss me off. I hate these things and wish they would go away. Apparently this one's used for connecting to your computer and doing all sorts of fancy stuff with the Fnersy software. So the standout feature of this is this large 2.8-inch IPS screen. Now, my wife strongly protests that 2.8 inches is large, but I keep telling her it's above average. You can flip the screen up and down 90 degrees in case you're too lazy to move your head northwards an inch to see it. And best of all, it turns on immediately as soon as you plug it in. No boot up time. Unlike so many gadgets these days, I'm looking at you, thermal cameras. In the box, you get pretty much the standard kit, some instructions, some cables to connect your power, and that's about it. So obviously it's quite small and portable because it's a switch mode power supply and most of the guts are external. You provide the source of the angry pixies and it merely distributes them in the fashion that you choose. I'm powering it right now with my big ass CTOLITY 200 watt LiFePo 4 power bank I've reviewed previously. Damn good unit, about 100 USD. It can output about 120 watts via its two Type C ports and 200 watts via its DC jack. Charge your laptop, takes a solar panel charge input. I reckon it's awesome. There'll be a link in the description. Also got a nice big camping light on top. For testing purposes, I'll also use the supplied Fnersy 100 watt USB-C adapter that comes with a unit if you choose. Now, on paper, the DPS-150 is impressive. It's got an adjustable output of 0 to 30 volts and 0 to 5 amps, up to 150 watts. Constant current, constant voltage modes, everything you'd expect, and a bunch of people have reported very good things about it. Automotive technicians, hobbyists using small motors, and RC, doing electroplating, makers in general really like this thing. But it has its problems. So the monkey in the room, believe it or not, is every product designed to be so compact like this one, convenient and relatively cheap, has to have compromises. And since this unit has been around for a while, there's plenty of forum posts from hardcore electronics nerds who hold no punches and uncovered a bunch of issues that were important to them and might be important to you if you're equally technical. To the first unforgivable sin, if you look at these two banana plugs on the front, they're not a standard 19 millimeters apart, so you can't connect your dual banana plugs as most people use in typical electronics labs. Instead, you'll have to use these separate banana plugs and plug them in individually like some kind of uncultured heathen that doesn't know the difference between AC coupling and DC coupling. Can you imagine?
Inconceivable!
And while I am being a smartass here, some of this might actually be relevant to you, so listen up. First of all, sort of alarmingly, it has been shown to output -6 volts when the output's disconnected, which could damage sensitive electronics like microcontrollers and ICs if you're doing that sort of thing. Number 2, some people have measured a ripple current more than the marked 20 millivolts. Others found it meets the spec just fine. Inside, and this is probably the important one to me, inside it's actually just a buck converter, meaning it can't output more power than you're giving it. It can't boost voltage. So if you're using the standard 100 watt USB-C charger that they provide, you're not going to get that maximum 150 watts and 30 volts they've advertised. You'll hit a limit around 20 volts because that's what most of those support, unless of course you use a larger power adapter. Something like this from a gaming laptop, something really beefy, and pipe it straight into that DC output plug on the back here. Then you'll get your 30 volts and up to 150 watts just fine. So really, it does meet the claim specifications, just not in the way that some customers would have liked. But do any of these complaints actually matter to the average person who's going to buy this thing? Well, I don't think so. They certainly don't for me. You see, I don't think this was designed for hardcore electronics engineers with their fancy lab coats and catalogued resistor drawers. Nope, this one's squarely aimed at Muppets like myself who enjoy pretty toys with flashy lights and anything that looks like it came from Blade Runner, which honestly is most of Fnersy's catalogue. And many of the geeks at EV Blog and similar autistic Batcaves do like it. They understand it's not trying to be a replacement for an expensive linear lab power supply. It's intended to be small, portable, cheapish unit that can sit on your desk, look pretty and not take up too much space. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I ain't touching it. Voltage output appears accurate both on the Powerbank and when connected to the supplied 100 watt GAN PD adapter. Connecting it to a servo controller, I didn't notice any jitter. Everything seemed as expected. And finally, testing this 12 to 20 volt LED array, we can try pull the maximum voltage from here, go up and up until we hit about 19.5 volts, just shy of its input voltage from the power bank, about 20 volts, and that's where it'll stop. It makes sense because that's the buck converter we mentioned earlier. It can't boost beyond the input power level you've given it. Okay, let's just take a quick look inside. Just using my CreationSpace CS0802 electric screwdriver. Quite a cheap one this, but really good. I use it in all my videos and pretty much any time I'm taking apart small electronics like this. So looking inside, once I do get inside, the core of the device is this MP9928 step-down converter chip. The performance of this thing is almost entirely dependent on this single off-the-shelf chip. Overall, the quality inside looks just as good as the outside. To me, a layman geek, I'm not an electronics enthusiast, but it looks well put together. I did have some issues getting it back together. Two of the poles where you screw the screws back in just seem to be a little bit out of alignment in the mold. Other than that, quite nice on the inside as well as the outside. So something really handy is their presets function, and you can just select the preset that you want. So I want to go up to 20 volts, and then you can just turn it on. Apart from this main screen, you've also got the graphing charting screen. Just hold down this button and it'll go there. So you've got a bit more information. You've got the settings screen, so you can set all your overvoltage, current, power. So like all Fnersies, this is firmware upgradable, so plug it into your computer and get the latest version. So what's my verdict on the DPS-150? Starting with the good, it's extremely compact and robustly built. It's got flexible input options and is simple enough for filthy casuals like myself who just want to dial up some power without a big honking traditional power supply on my desk. As for the bad, like we said before, if you're a hardcore electronics geek working on sensitive electronics especially, then there's several reasons you might not like this unit and you probably need something less flashy. But if you're like me and tinker mostly with toys, RC cars, 12 volt stuff, if you're in automotive electronics or you're a maker who likes to electroplate things, then this unit seems pretty ideal to me and I'm glad to have it on my desk. Okay, moving on, the Jakemy Y10 Pro Ultrasonic Cutter. So ultrasonic cutters have been around a long time, since the 1950s, mostly used in industry, food industry, particularly for cutting things without leaving a mess and without crushing. So you need to cut a cake or slice bread without crushing it. Ultrasonic cutter is really good for that. Medical, dental, that sort of thing. So lately we've had some consumer models sold, usually as Kickstarters. I think it Bolts, I think it is. I'll put it up on the screen. And they advertise it as the perfect solution for cleaning up 3D models, cutting all kinds of materials smoothly, generally as a useful tool for makers to have. They were still a bit expensive. That's why this one caught my eye. So at around $100, this is pretty cheap, 100 US. The question, of course, is does it actually work and is it any good? Should you buy this if you're a maker, if you do 3D printing, if you do modeling? Is this something that's worth your time and money? I guess that's what we're going to find out today. I haven't touched this at all. I haven't switched it on. I haven't tried it at all. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. So unboxing, Pro version comes with the case and just a whole bunch of extra accessories and things. So you've got your plug pack, you've got your cable, you've got your device in there, lots and lots of spare blades. There's about 5 in each of these little capsules, and the manual. We might actually need the manual. Okay, so looking at the tool itself, solid, kind of premium feel. It's certainly bulky, anodized body, so that'll help with the heat dissipation. There's quite a bit of heat coming out of these, apparently. This is a corded tool, so I've just got my power bank here. All right, so there's our blade. The ergonomics on this thing are not great straight off the bat. Okay, so we turned it on. Let's chuck it on auto. Okay, so it's not... Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What happens is it seems like it's off, right? But when you touch something with it, you can just hear that it's vibrating crazy fast. We'll just listen real carefully.
Oh, somebody stepping a duck.
So this is a Thor helmet printed in several pieces, and one of the pieces wasn't glued on at the right spot and it needs to come out. You can see the lights coming through. I wonder if I can cut along where I've glued it without completely stuffing it up. I don't think it's going to work just because it's glued up here. I'm not going to be able to get that thing inside, but let's just see if the theory works. Yeah, iffy, maybe. Really could have done the same thing with a little saw. Does that mean it's overheated? Okay, so I'm just going to interrupt the video here. I read in the manual that it's not yet broken in or activated, as they say. So you first need to run it 2 or 3 times before it's going to be working at its best. So I'm coming back now a few days later and giving it another shot, see if it works better than that initial run-in period. And maybe I've improved my technique a little. I don't know. We'll find out. This is kind of leaving a bit of a melted edge, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't acrylic. Maybe it's PVC or something. So this is definitely clear acrylic. Wow, it really just glides through that. Quite different to that other stuff. I'm guessing this must be PVC, lower melting point, so like PLA, it melts. That was probably easier than cutting it with a knife, I reckon. It just straight through. You've got to watch though, it'll just melt, glide straight through your cutting mat. See if I can show you a bit more closely how it works. Let's go back to balsa. Okay, along the grain, it just feels like a really sharp razor. Let's try against the grain. Yeah, it's like a power knife or something. It's very strange. Ooh, that gets really hot. That nearly burned me. So this is definitely working a lot better than it was the first time I did it, the first time I used it. So yeah, that break-in period I think is important. Now that it seems to be broken in a bit more, let's try some PLA again. Wow, look at that. And you definitely got some melting there, but you can still use it for 3D prints depending on what you wanted to do. Using it is kind of a strange feeling. It's a lot like slicing through plastic with a hot knife, but you also get these weird hyper vibration feeling and noise at the same time. And of course, these little farting kind of noises just as you're starting to cut into something. So it's definitely much better now that it's been broken in. The other day when I was first using it, I ended up being a bit disappointed just because it didn't seem to be working that well. It's definitely working much better today. My only major gripe then with this is the ergonomics. They are so bad. It's like trying to write with a giant block of cheese. Yeah, I noticed the bolts, it was rounded, so that was a little bit better, but still quite thick. I guess because they can only make the transducer so small. Other units seem to be a bit slimmer by having a separate external device, but they are way more expensive. So I'll just put up a chart now of how it cuts through different materials in my experience, how well it does it, how quickly, and any side effects, so you can get an idea of whether or not you're going to get some use out of this thing. So resin prints, top notch. PLA, PTG, yes, it cuts well, but it does melt the edges a bit. Acrylic sheet is fantastic. Wood, it works well. PCBs, I haven't bothered testing because I hear it's quite slow, and you may as well just use a rotary tool like we did a video on the other day. Something else that's important is if you have pets, the tool emits a really high pitched frequency. I can hear it sometimes when it's cutting or when it just starts to cut, and it completely destroyed the audio coming from my overhead camera, the Sony. It just blanks out whenever I turn this thing on. Luckily, my main shooting camera, the DJI Action 4 that I'm using, it didn't hurt it at all, so that's lucky. Okay, so what's the verdict on the Jakeme Y10? Positives, cutting performance is really good on the right materials, as long as you give it that burn-in period. So I've now had about 2 30-minute sessions, and it's already cutting way, way better than it did on the first day. Build quality is quite good. It's solid. OLED screen's nice. Very cheap for an ultrasonic cutter. Comes with a lot of extra blades and things. So overall, really good value package, the case and all that sort of stuff. Negatives, really the only big one I'd say is the ergonomics are terrible, which makes intricate cuts a lot harder. The overheating was a problem on the first day. I think that was just during the burn-in period. Wasn't a problem at all today. It could depend on what materials you're cutting though, and I think the auto mode is much worse for overheating. I only used it on high, and yeah, no overheating issues at all. The marketing on the tools can be a little bit misleading. It's not a universal cutting tool, but when it works on the right materials, I'll agree, it is kind of magical the way it just shook. So finally, do I recommend this product? No, not for everyone, but if you know what you're getting into, you understand ultrasonic cutters and what materials they work with and what they don't, then I would. It's a very cheap way to get your foot in the door, and if you find yourself using it a lot, then you can consider upgrading to a more ergonomic unit. But this is a great way to get started for about $100 or so US. As for me, I can definitely see myself using this on certain materials and certain situations. It doesn't leave a mess everywhere. That's one of the things I really like about this. So there's no dust and crap everywhere. You don't have to wear a mask. All that sort of stuff is not necessary. All right, so wrapping it up, the Fnirsi DPS-150. Look, this is a fantastic little power supply for regular hobbyists, keeping in mind its limitations around sensitive electronics. But other than that, I really like this thing, and this will definitely be sitting on my desk. The Jakeme, interesting, unique little cutting device, not for everyone, definitely effective with the right materials. I'm really happy I bought this, and I'll definitely be using it instead of my rotary tool for certain materials. That's the best thing about it, just there's no mess, and it just slices through like nothing else. So yeah, really happy with that one, but I can't recommend it for everybody. It's not a universal cutting tool like some of the advertisements say. Well, that's all I've got time for today. Hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. I know I did. Take care of yourself, be kind, be cool, and I'll see you next time.